So today is part 2 of prepping for 2024 with our goals and just resetting for the new year all of the amazing things that come with my favorite holiday, New Year's Day. So I'm really excited because we're getting into the niche of it all, which is vision casting. And vision casting basically just means kind of laying out your plan, your vision for 2024. So think of like a fisherman, right? Like they cast their nets or cast their poles, no, not the pole, the line, cast the line into the water, and to begin the expedition of fishing and to reap the benefits of what they're doing. So we're just casting out our vision. We're putting it out there, and gonna try to sweep up all the fish that we can, get all the good stuff. And I'm really excited about this episode. Like I said, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, actually, you should probably go back and listen to that because that's step 1, which is goal setting. And now we're getting really niche into vision casting and all the things. So let's jump in. We're drinking iced water today because we are focused. We needed to just really dial in here and get going because, man, I loved last week's goal setting episode so much. I love a good goal setting session, and I really got to lay out the base for it, the framework that we use for goals, that I specifically use, and it's really helpful. But with that being said, we have this like kind of vague idea of how to set goals now. I really wanted to get into what it looks like to create a vision for your new year, and then you're able to apply all the goal setting tools that we worked on last week to create this ultimate plan, right? Because we're trying to create a map for 2024 before 2024 begins, because we're taking off on New Year's Day, okay? We're launching into outer space. But here's the problem is we don't have a flight plan and we don't really know where we're going, and we do not want to crash and burn and land back on Earth, okay? We're shooting for the stars. And I like that little metaphor. Thank you. That was on the spot that I came up with that. So thank you. Anyways, this is vision casting. And I love this idea. If you know, I obviously am a Christian, so I don't believe in manifestation at all. But I do believe that having very consistent, concise, and clear prayers are very important. So I loved the kind of example last week of starting a podcast. That was one I love to use, or in my example for 2024, writing the book. That's one of the ones that I'm going to talk about as an example as well. Talked a lot about what that would look like to make them SMART with the acronym and all of that. But also at the same time, knowing that goal and creating that map means that we get to launch into this and have a clear way that a direction that we're heading to be the best version of ourselves. So I have 5 things that we're going to talk about today for vision casting, 5 areas of life that we need to really focus on. And, these are ultimately customizable, obviously. So if you feel like you have more in one area, less in another, whatever, customize as you need. But I wanted the vision to come after the goals because you need to be equipped with how you set goals before you start setting them. So instead of jumping into all the goals that we need to set and then how to set them, I thought, well, let's reverse it and let's talk about the how, and then let's really get into the what of it. So that's what we're doing because it felt like a good idea to me. And we're preparing it all, okay? And another thing that is just so huge, so huge, is the tension that we are in. So I say the word tension because the word balance is unfair. So a lot of people are like, you need to live a balanced life. And that's a beautiful sentiment. But the problem with balance is life around us is not always balanced. And so let's use this example. A lot of my friends just had newborn babies this fall, and like 5 of them. Okay, like a lot of friends. And to ask them to live a balanced life right now, I honestly feel like would maybe be a little bit of a slap in the face. Like, obviously there's more tension as far as being pulled in a direction than there is balance. So when you're in an extreme season of life, like adding a new child to your family, you're not going to be able to balance out everything and keep it all equilateral, right? There are going to be things like, instead of looking at a scale that needs to be balanced and tipped and all of that, picture a rope. And there are times where certain things are going to pull you in a direction But that's not always a bad thing. There are times where you're going to be really busy. There's going to be times when you're really slow. There's going to be times when you're allowed to lean into health focuses. There's going to be times when you need to focus on family and career and all of those things. And allowing yourself to have the tension of being pulled in different directions and not constantly trying to force balance in every aspect of your life is really, really important. So when it comes to life, I like to view it as a rope. Sometimes I'm being pulled this way and sometimes I'm being pulled that way. And I'm not going to pull back hard enough where I'm getting dragged across the space in my head. But instead, I'm really focused on just allowing myself to go where I need to go and knowing that at some point I'm going to come back to center. When it comes to my lifestyle, my habits, I try really hard to keep a balance in the idea of focusing on my mind or on my body, soul, and spirit. Okay. The body being the physical of me, obviously the soul being the emotive personality, will of me, and then the spirit being that like Christian being who God needs me to be, following the Holy Spirit, all of that. Okay. So I have those three aspects of what makes me a human. And I try to keep balance in my care for all three of those. But when it comes to things like my career, my family, my relationships, all of that, I allow myself to be pulled in different directions because there are times where different people need us for different things and we have to be available to that. And I think that's a big portion of what God calls us to. Okay. So there's time for tension. There's areas of in our life that need tension with a rope. But then there's also areas in our life where we do need to focus on balance and keeping things equal in as far as what we focus on as who we are as a human being. Okay. So today we are not talking about the balanced portion. We're not talking about the body, spirit, soul breakdown, which is like one of my favorite things to discuss. Instead, we're really diving into the areas of life where there is that rope, where we're being pulled in different directions. Okay. So those are the 5 areas that we're focusing on. And if you remember, we are doing big goals with little steps. That's how we make the SMART goals. And let's dive into it. Let's get really niche with it. Okay. So first one I want to talk about, I'm going to start with like the lamest and then get to the most fun. Okay. Finance. This is something that you should be thinking about when it comes to goals, not because you're money focused, not because you're money hungry or greedy or whatever, but because it's an important part of life. It's a part of living. And same with that tension. Think of the rope. There are times where you need to be working a little harder because you have bills that you need to pay. You have a life that you need to live. And maybe you need to be a little bit more disciplined in money for a season. Allow that rope to pull you in that direction. Handle the business that needs to be handled and then come back to center. Okay. So for finance, I do think that this is one of the 5 areas for vision casting. And this is going to look so different for every single person. For me specifically, this is something that I'm going to do with my husband. He's not really involved in a lot of my goals for my business or for my personal life, but for this one specifically, I do want to pull on him. I want to pull on my partner, whoever you share money with, all the things. And what kind of things are we talking about? Let's talk about debt. Okay. Debt needs to be paid. How much debt are we in to start 2024? Where do we want to be at the end of 2024? And then ultimately, so like, let's say we have $10,000 worth of debt. We're going to sit down and say, okay, we want to pay off $10K worth of debt in the new year. That's our umbrella goal. All right. Now I need to set up like steps for that. So how much is that us paying each month? Okay. Just under $1,000 each month. Okay. So then what does it look like for us to budget that in? And you're going to start these little baby steps. And then every month you have the goal to pay off however much money you need to pay off. And then the ultimate goal at the end of the year is to walk into 2025 with $10,000 less of debt. Okay. So paying off debt, working through that is a huge finance goal. Now, let's say you don't have debt or you've got that under control. You should have an amount that you want to be in your savings account or maybe in an investment amount that you want to have. So let's say you're starting investments. You want to invest $15,000, $10,000, $5,000, whatever. All of that is great. Make those goals. We had the goal to start an investment fund for our safety money. So we put our safety money, which means let's say one of us loses our job. It's like our cushion money. We wanted to put that in a CD and we wanted to build that up nice and high. So we put that money in a CD. That was one of our goals for 2024 is to have an investment where if something were to happen and we lost our jobs, we have a really good cushion and we're going to be okay for a few months. and we can fall back on that, but it's still being smartly invested. That was one of our goals, and we got it done in 2023. Okay, so creating that, any big purchases should also be listed here. You want a new car, a house, maybe you want to move into a new apartment, maybe there is a really big need for a new computer or a camera, whatever that is for you. Put your big purchases or a big vacation, that's a good one. All of that needs to be put on your financing because you have to save that money up to pay it off. So for finance, things you want to do, things you want to buy, things you want to invest in, things you want to pay off, okay? Let's move on. Next is kind of your business/career, okay? So if you own a business, this is going to be massive for you. If you're in a career that you love or hate, really, really important here, okay? So if it's for your career side of things, maybe you want a new title, a promotion, whatever that is. So let's say that you want a promotion. And you're currently a specialist, but you want to be promoted to a coordinator or whatever that looks like for you. Well, what do you need to do? Are there trainings that need to happen? Are there certain steps that your boss is waiting for? Is there a conversation that you need to have with your boss that says, you know what, this is what I want in this position. I want to be promoted here, or I want this pay, whatever that looks like. Have that conversation with your boss and then figure out what they need from you in order to have you step into that role. Very, very crucial. So maybe it's just scheduling this appointment, first of all, this time to talk with whoever oversees you. Or maybe it's getting a little bit deeper into things of, you know what I need to do is I need to show up like this. I need to, accomplish this specific project that's been on my radar for a while, or, do a little extra work here. So figure out what you want and then all the little steps to get there. This could also be maybe you want to start a business. So one of the things I talked a lot about was last week when we were talking about goals is what it looks like to start a podcast and what kind of mini goals you need to have. So if you want to start a business, if you want to start a podcast, a YouTube channel, start a UGC, user-generated content account, whatever it is, you need to create that goal and then get real specific, real niche with all of your ideas. So you want to start a business. You need a name, you need colors, you need your theme, you need your vibes, you need your social media accounts. You need to figure out what you're selling. You need to design what you're selling. And this can get way more intense if you're selling a tangible product, if you're selling something that you hand created, all of that. But these are all things that you need to answer and figure out. Set up the website, all of that. That's a lot to do. So if that's something that you want to do under the business career section, start to make that goal out. Start to really figure out what business you want and start working towards it. You know what I mean? And another thing that I think is really cool in this section is mentorship. I'm not sure it's always communicated, but a mentor can be really helpful here. So I know that there's a lot of websites where you can find a mentor online for business specifically. I don't necessarily love that because you don't know who you're getting, but there are definitely people out there who are living the life that you want or have, maybe not the full life, but have a very lucrative business or whatever. And people love to talk about themselves and what they've created. Let's be honest, okay? Let's be honest about it. So, emailing someone and asking to sit down and just ask them questions about how they got where they are and their tips and tricks, all of that. A lot of people surprisingly say yes. And it's always really fun to do. I've done this for a couple of different people, is to just sit down and be like, how did you get where you are? Walk me through it. Let's talk about this. And it's really interesting. The stories are crazy. And it's a helpful reminder too, that you're not behind and that everyone has started from somewhere else. Okay. One of my favorite things that I ever heard was a podcast by Jay Shetty. He is a ex-monk. I love listening to him. Highly suggest you read his books, check out his podcast, all the things. And he said that people aren't afraid of starting. They're afraid of starting at zero, right? So I find that in this business career one, this is really huge because we're not afraid of starting. We're afraid of starting at zero and having to build up. You're not afraid of starting a new social media account and hitting publish on a post. You're afraid of the post bombing. You're afraid of not having any followers. You're afraid of all of that. You're not afraid to necessarily write the book and publish it. You're afraid that no one's going to read it and that no one's interested in what you have to say because you're starting at zero. So when you recognize that in yourself that, okay, wow, am I actually afraid of this or am I afraid that it looks like I'm weird if I do this? Like I'm starting at zero. I don't have the following. I don't have the background that taking a risk would be normal for. Recognize that, and then you're able to step into those roles a little bit easier because you get to say, okay, you know what? I'm not afraid of this. I'm afraid of starting zero. And everybody starts at zero. So let's do this. Okay. So that's really huge. And I think when you're talking to mentors, they can kind of remind you of that, of the fact that, you know what, I started at zero. Even if I was privileged in some ways, I wasn't necessarily like just handed this life. And if the people that you're interviewing are, maybe find new people to mentor you. Okay. All right. So next I want to jump into, let's do relationships. So relationships is one of the category. Okay. So we've done finance and we've done business career. Okay. So now we're in relationships. This one I have not been good about in the past of adding this to my vision casting list because it never felt like something I wanted to be intentional about. But relationships are built on intentionality. Relationships are built on that sincerity. So what this could look like is, truthfully, I do this sometimes, I'll be honest, is creating kind of like a list of friends and then how often you want to check in on them or prioritize getting together with them. Okay. This is, it kind of sounds like you're ranking friends. I don't want it to come across that way at all. But what you're doing is you're creating almost like a calendar for you to be intentional with the people around you. So for me, I have obviously all my local friends, which there's certain people where I try to get together monthly with them or bi-monthly every 2 months. There's certain people I try to get together quarterly. And then there's certain people I try to get together maybe once or twice a year because they're not as much as someone that I maybe want to pour into or feel like completely poured into by, but they're people that I still care about and I still want to be intentional with when I can. And then you have like the virtual side of it of like checking in on people, texting people, calling people even, all of that. And so I try to create a goal of being really intentional with friendships and what that looks like. And, having people visit me, visiting them if they're far away, all of that is really important. Also within this section, you can create goals around small groups, whether that is you starting and leading a small group or joining a small group at your church, whatever that looks like for you. I think this is a really perfect goal. And so for myself, I had the goal to actually lead our first small group this in 2023. And I was able to accomplish that. We had an incredible small group in the fall at our new house, and it was truly incredible, like absolutely amazing. So what are your goals for the small group for 2024? How many do you want? Do you want to do one in the fall, summer, spring? Do you want to just do one small group the whole time? All of that is so important. I have a group of girls where we get together once a month and we did for the entire year, and that was perfect. And then I had small groups that were more spaced out. All of that is just so good. And there are things that you can create goals on because goals require intentionality, right? Similarly, if you have a significant other or you're married, whatever that looks like, planning out dates with your partner is so important. So for Matt and we try to do like a monthly really intentional date. And then weekly we have like these Sabbath dates where we just like kind of chill out and don't have to really think about doing too much. And then like what the what the vacations look like with each other is really important too. Planning all of that out with relationships as far as, okay, who's going with on trips? What kind of trips do I need to take to visit family or friends? All of that can be added to this goal section, right? And then similarly, I also think that volunteers can be added. I add volunteer time to my relationship side. It could probably be added into the business career side if you wanted to. But for me, whenever I'm serving, that is relational for me more than doing like a specific task. So I add it to my relational side. So my volunteer times, what am I volunteering? What am I doing for free that is promoting or pursuing the kingdom and helping other people get there? And, that can look so different for everybody. Every single person has a different answer for that, whether it's serving in church events or, Sunday service stuff, going to youth groups, doing that sort of thing, maybe a soup kitchen, opening your home to people. All of that is huge. And so what are we doing to volunteer our time, our skills, our money, our assets, all of that to love on other people? Okay. So that's important. Similarly, I want to add this one to finance really fast. We're going to go back to it, is what charities or organizations, ministries you're supporting. Matt and I made it a goal to start supporting 2 ministries last year. So we support an international one and then a domestic local ministry on top of the church. And so we really wanted to focus in on these 2 ministries and just love on them really well and support them through whatever means we could. So that can be added. I think that kind of ties into volunteer, but it's more so finance. So we'll throw that one under there. Okay. So we've done finance, we've done business and career, and we've done relationships. So we're going to jump into wellness now. This one is your most common, right? Everyone's vision casting for wellness. They want to lose 10 pounds. They want to be able to run a marathon, all of the things. Okay. And that's good. This is where I really want to remind you that things need to be relative to who you are, not just because they're trendy. Okay. Relative to who you are, who you want to be. And I used this example last week. I used to think I should run a marathon. That should be a goal for my new year, except I hate running. There's literally no reason for me to do that. And that's disgusting. So not a goal for me. But if you're someone who enjoys running or genuinely wants to start running, then, make your goal for a freaking marathon for the fall. And then all your small goals of like maybe run a 5K in February and then build up to a 10K and then a half marathon in the summer, create those goals. So for wellness, I do think that doing some sort of landmark activity like a 5K, 10K marathon can be a fun one to add. Don't get me wrong. I've run 5Ks. I've also walked 5, 10Ks, all of those. They're fun to do. They're fun to add to a goal list because they're very achievable. There's something you can definitely mark off, especially if it's a lower one. If you're doing a 5K, probably don't need to do a lot of training. Really, the small goal is scheduling the 5K and then maybe light training, but very achievable, something you can definitely mark off quickly. Where if you're doing something a little bit harder, like a marathon, build out those smaller goals again. So I think that's a fun thing to do. I also think trying a class, trying something new as far as fitness or wellness goes can be super, super fun. So this past year, it was actually in October, I decided, I was like, oh, I'm going to do fighting classes and make that a goal for the new year. But then I decided to not wait until 2024 because there was no need to wait. So I started taking Muay Thai classes. So in 2023, I started fighting classes and it's so fun. And that wasn't necessarily a predetermined goal, but it was something that I was looking forward to doing in 2024. And I started that process. So, whether it's a cycling class, maybe you've always wanted to try Pilates, there are so many free trial classes. And that's great. So I'm not even necessarily saying like commit yourself to a activity you've never tried before, but simply trying the new activity can be so amazing. And like I said, the trial classes are free and they're always so fun to do. And you get to just do something new. So that's good. There's also like a really measurable, tangible goal within like the wellness fitness industry of like not a weight number or BMI number, but like a weighted lifting number that I think can be really cool. So like, I think doing like 25 push-ups in a row, like that's a great goal. And then how are you working towards that? So, are you doing 5 push-ups in a row for a week and then adding on, create that time, create that system, that protocol for actually accomplishing it. But, having a number tied to a fitness goal can be really fun too. Trying a new sport, that can be super fun. One of my goals for 2024 is to try pickleball. I've never done it and it seems really fun. It's an easy one to set up. Again, my only micro goal for that is probably scheduling out a day, maybe inviting friends, and then going to play pickleball. So that's super fun. And then, other things in wellness, sleep is really important. So how are you working towards your goal of sleep? Is your goal 8 hours a night, 7 hours a night? Is your goal to find out how much sleep you work best on? Try out a few different time segments and figure out what really rolls for you, a consistent wake up time, a consistent bedtime. All of those things can be added to wellness. You do have your traditional nourishment thing. I'm very anti creating diet plans throughout this time because it's not going to stick long. Just statistically, it's not going to do well. But maybe you do want to create the overarching goal of, more protein in your diet or less processed foods. Well, then you probably need to, what's a goal for that? Meal planning. What's a goal for that? Grocery planning. What's a goal for that? Okay. So like, you see what I'm saying? Like you break everything down into smaller goals. So if you want to cut out as much processed food as possible, you're going to go through and plan out some whole food meals. And then you're going to plan out your whole meal grocery lists. And then you're going to set aside time each week to create the grocery list, go to the grocery store, meal prep, or cook your meals each day. That's literally how you do it. You break it down to the smallest possible way and start pursuing that. So I'm not against nourishment goals, but I am against like starting a diet specifically, just because I've never seen it work well for myself or for anyone I know. So, and then within wellness too, you know, a good skincare routine. That was one of my goals for 2023. I don't know if you're watching the video, but she's clearing up nicely, right? So that was really big. I also, one of my goals for 2023 is I wanted to be off of a lot of medication that I was on. I've been on medication since I was, 13, 14 years old. And it's just always been something I had to deal with, and I wanted off. And guess what? We did it. You know what I mean? So what kind of doctor's appointments do you want to go to? Do you want to start the process of getting straighter teeth? Do you want to get braces? You know what I'm saying? Like, this can be so many things within wellness, and it's just really, really amazing to break down. And I hope that kind of gives you some inspiration as you start thinking about tangible, relative wellness goals. Okay. So we did finance, we did business career, we did relationships, we did wellness. So the last area that I think is really important to vision cast is fun. Okay. Because we don't want our entire life to be so full of everything else that when we're in the tension of it all, we don't remember that we're living life. Okay. We don't live to work. We work to live, right? Like, that's kind of the point. And we don't want our family time to be always spent in budget meetings and, you know, all of that sort of stuff where it's more high tension, big decision making, but really having fun with each other and just enjoying each other a lot. So my fun side is always so cool to me. I like to make how many books I want to read in the year. That's a huge one. I count that under my fun area. I could count it under wellness probably, but it goes under fun because I enjoy reading so much. So my goal for 2023 was 100 books. I'm at 98 right now. So I fully expect to hit that goal. But it's taken me all year to really accomplish this. So how many books do I want to read in the new year? I always do that one. Local places to try. I will make a list of, you know, maybe 5 to 10 either places or activities that I really, really want to do. Pickleball could probably go in that one. But that's a sport that I wanted to add to wellness because it's customizable. But for next year, we are going to Greece. And so, you know, that somewhat goes under finance because I have to pay for all the flights and everything, get that finished being paid for. But at the same time, I also put it under fun column because, you know, I'm getting to go to Greece, Croatia, Montenegro, and Italy, which is 3 new countries for us that we haven't been to, and that's super fun. And then we have a really fun trip planned to New England in the fall for a big foliage trip, right? So those are already planned out. Those are super fun, and they're things that I have to make mini goals for because they require a lot of planning in order to make happen. But they're really fun to do, and so they get added to the fun column. Trying new hobbies, like I said, I have already started Muay Thai because I didn't want to wait on it, but that was something that could go under wellness, but also fun because I'm learning something new. I'm learning to fight. For me, also learning is huge. So I tend to put my learning column under fun of things that I want to learn to do. So that sometimes that's like a cooking class, or I haven't decided exactly what I want to put under my fun column for like the learning side of things, but you could also do that under wellness. For 2023, one of my goals was to get better at German. And that went under fun for me because it was just a silly goal and I'm learning German and it's really freaking fun. Okay. So, you know, the fun one is just so interesting because there's so many different things that you can put under there of what like really you love to do. It's not one size fits all for the fun column, but I do think that it is an important one to add and to have on your radar when it comes to just life in general. I don't think it's something that you should leave off when you're doing your vision casting, okay? So as always, write these down, really, really break them down because the smaller the step is, the easier it is. So for me, there are times where I was terrified for my first Muay Thai class, okay? I didn't have any of the equipment. It was a trial class, so it was free, but I was really nervous to go in. I didn't know anyone at all. And so I broke it down. So I was like, okay, my goal is to accomplish this class, to finish this class and walk out feeling really, really proud of myself. Okay. So step one is literally, I need to get in the car. Step 2 is I literally just need to drive to the place. Step 4, I need to open the front door and go in. Step 5 is I need to check in. So am I scared to drive to this place? Nope. That's easy. Okay, I got it. So I drove there. Am I scared to open this door? No. I can open a door. I'm scared of what's inside the door, but I'm not scared to open the door. Okay, great. Am I scared to talk to the check-in person? I'm scared of what the check-in person is going to say, but I'm not terrified to say hi to the check-in person and introduce myself. So when you break it down to like literally the smallest things, it's so much easier. They're like, all right, get on the mat. All right, am I scared to put my left foot in front of my right foot? Nope. It's just moment by moment, step by step. And the bigger the goal, you can really break this down and make them into small things that are very tangible, very possible, and no longer scary. And a little magical pro tip for you at the end of this. Every year, I set these goals as the desktop background for my computers and my phone. So when I open my phone, when I open my computers, I have a list of these 5 areas and what I want to accomplish in the year already on there. That's my background. So then I'm reminded of all the things that I want to do and that I need to be taking steps to do these things in order to live my best life, to live an abundant life that I know that I want to live. So pro tip, set these things as your wallpaper, okay? Okay, so we did our goal setting, we did our vision casting. Next week, we're going to talk about how to make habits stick, how to actually be consistent, because all this sounds great, right? We learned how to create goals. We learned what kind of goals we actually should be creating and all the areas of life that we should have goals in. Now, how do we apply that? Okay, so we know the goals need to be little habits and little steps, but how do we make those consistent? All happening next week. So love you so much, and I will see you later.